If you've been feeling overwhelmed, been in a state of despair, hopelessness, disconnection, distrusting yourself since January this year, I don't know what could have happened at that time. You're not alone. This is a really normal reaction to the things that you are witnessing, seeing happen in the world. I'm Rachel. I'm a somatic therapist and coach. In this video, I'm going to talk about the connection between oppression at a large scale that we're seeing today and abuse, and how those things have kind of parallel experiences to help you better understand how what is happening right now might be impacting you on a personal level. And then I'm going to go a little deeper into the somatic responses you might be having. So, what might be happening in your body, with your nervous system. And then at the end, stick around. I will be telling you what you can do about it to find a little more balance so you can stay a little more grounded in this chaotic time. As a therapist who has also done a lot of work within social movements, I noticed that there's a big overlap of oppression and abuse. So there's similar experiences, they just happen on a smaller scale or a larger scale, but they have similar impacts on you and your nervous system. So I think it's really important to be able to see these parallels, understand why what's happening globally, what's happening in the country, may be having a particular impact on you. So when you think about abuse within a family, within a relationship, there are always these power dynamics that are at play that are often one person trying to assert and maintain power over another person. You would see this within an abusive relationship where one person may be trying to take away someone's power, take away their experience, make them question themselves and their reality. And then the same thing is true if you zoom out and look at oppression, forms of state repression, trauma, violence. It is the same things that are happening where there's an assertion of power, usually over a particular group. It could be a particular identity or a particular social class, but there are attempts to assert power and control your experience based on those things. So right now we see this with attacks of ICE on communities, or even things like removing money for education or for health subsidies. There's ways that they're squeezing people, impacting their reality. So they're more reliant. So you're more reliant, I'm more reliant on these oppressive systems. So oppression and abuse both want you to be reliant or dependent on whoever is in power. They want you to distrust other people. They want you to feel the aspects of kind of the rug being pulled out from under you so they have more control. And then I alluded to this a little, but there is a denial of truth that happens both in abuse and in oppression. So within an abuse in a family, that might look like a parent just breaking down a child or telling them that they didn't do what you know they did. And it's this slow kind of burn of making you question yourself, your experience, your embodied truth. It's like your body's screaming, you're in pain, you're hurt, but the person in power is telling you that's not true, you're making that up, you're being too sensitive, you're being too much, whatever it might be, as attempts to get control over the narrative of your experience to maintain that power and control. We see this obviously in a large scale as you look at fake news, things in the media, the president trying to really create a specific narrative that justifies the abuse of people, of dehumanizing people, of terrorizing people. So it's all of these ways of maintaining control and power that are really designed to make you question yourself and your experience and disempower you, even in places where you actually have more power than you realize. And with that, I think there is this gaslighting component, that denial of truth, that happens too in this scapegoating at the larger level. So people make you question your truth, but then there's also a projection of their stuff onto you. So if you think about people who are abusive to children, or even male partners who are abusive to women, it's often a projection of the parts of themselves that they are unwilling to acknowledge or look at. So when a parent is ashamed of their child for being sensitive, for being caring, or being feminine, all of these things that make them feel insecure because they want to hide those parts of themselves, they will ridicule those parts or disregard those parts. And this happens too at a larger scale, where there's ways that with white supremacy, with patriarchy, the qualities, just normal human qualities, honestly, that people are socialized to not believe are valuable or worthy or good, they start to project those things out onto other people. It's often a lot of projection of shame, of fear, and then often on the receiving end, you take it in and believe that it's yours. So this happens large scale with racism, sexism, and then in the same way in our little dynamics, and obviously they're not totally separate because we all live in this world with all of these messages that then impact our personal relationships. I often say to people, it's like this feeling of oppression, repression is in the air right now. So you may be experiencing hopelessness, despair, feelings of powerlessness. The clients I work with, there's this common thread that everyone is feeling like they don't have control over their life, of the future. People are feeling stuck. You might be feeling the same. And I think it's something that we're just taking in almost at an unconscious level. Obviously, we're taking it in consciously too, but these emotional, somatic impacts are really leading to a sense of shutdown, of hopelessness, of powerlessness. And so really understanding that those experiences are impacting our nervous system. Our nervous system is this wonderful, beautiful system within us that keeps us safe, that gets activated in different ways to help us stay safe. And ideally, when we are in a safer situation, we're kind of activated, we relax, there's this up and down, but we're able to stay within this place of regulation. When something big like this is happening, when you're witnessing violence, when you're witnessing increasing chaos, your body is going to be responding as if there is a threat. And this is what it's supposed to do. We need it to do that. And we're not trying to shut it off, not get it to do that. It's just better understanding so we know how to work with it. So what happens is often it seems like there's this actual shutdown when we're in this kind of up and down. Normally, if we stay in too much intensity or for too long in this activated fight or flight response, it's often called, then we will go into either a freeze, which is there's a lot of restlessness in the body, but you're immobilized, or a complete shutdown where you feel like, what's the point? I'm just gonna give up. Just leave me here. Just leave me here to die. I mean, maybe not to that extreme, but that feeling of just kind of giving up. And so these are all normal responses to be having in witnessing what's happening right now. And we actually need to be able to shift ourselves out of them in order to take skillful action to create a better world, a better future. So if you are experiencing some of this, sometimes it could be just from the exposure. Like that is enough to have your nervous system have these trauma responses. But if you've also experienced abuse in your family, abuse in a relationship, all these ways where you had to kind of leave your body to stay safe, leave the experience to stay safe, like you do in a shutdown response, it might be amplifying your experience of what's happening in the world. Because your body knows that experience of powerlessness, especially if it's with your parents or your upbringing where you really didn't have power. Another sign that there's this dysregulation of the nervous system is just a feeling of kind of being on edge or being restless. You might feel really distrustful of people, or it's hard to trust yourself. It's hard to feel grounded. And I think this is often this sensation I will notice sometimes with myself, with the people I work with, where when you are lying on the ground or trying to relax, it's like your body is resisting. It like doesn't want to relax. I think that's this experience of we're all trying to grapple with what's happening. You might be struggling to be really grounded. You might not want to be with the reality right now, which makes sense. It's a lot to take in. So in this next part of the video, I'm going to give you a few tips of what you can actually do about it. It's great to understand, but I think understanding is never enough to create change. So I want to give you a few tips in the next part. All right, when we're thinking about just how to regulate the nervous system, I just disclaimer. All right, when we're thinking about what to do to regulate the nervous system, just a little disclaimer that I do not think somatic practices are the end all be all, that these things are going to make everything beautiful. You're going to be at ease all the time. They're going to just help you be a little more grounded, to be able to relate to reality in a different way, and hopefully in a way that doesn't lead you to being shut down, that leads you to feeling like you still have some agency, like you can still do something. So the first thing you always want to do is bringing awareness to what's happening. Noticing what's happening, when it's happening. Simple, just taking your awareness from what's happening up here, dropping it into what's happening in your body. I have practices on my channel if you want to kind of explore that deeper. And so that's the first step, just noticing when you're out of balance. I think that is a hard thing for most of us. You go through your day, one thing to the next. You don't take time to tune in to notice what's happening in your body. You might get to the end of the day and just be completely depleted. So just simple check-ins, takes 30 seconds to check in with yourself, notice where you're at. So once you have that information, if you notice, I am feeling really amped up, activated, restless, in those moments you might want to move. You could shake, you could take a walk, you could just want to do something that's going to help release a little energy. If you're feeling in that, like, I don't know what I'm feeling, I'm so shut down, you also want to find ways to get a little activated in that moment. Shaking, moving, doing something that is going to get you back in your body. Something as simple as just kind of squeezing down your arms, bringing yourself back from up here to down here. It's probably going to hear me say that many times. So this is the practice when we're working with the nervous system, is really just how do we get out of our minds, get back into our bodies, and know what to do with that. Because often we might tap into the body and say, oh, there's a lot there, that's scary, and then you might leave again. So just practices to help you be in your body a little more. And then you want to identify what's within your control. So there is innumerable things out of your control. That is the nature of life. There's many things you have no control over. And in times when things feel very uncertain, you're going to feel that even more. It's these times when things are chaotic, uncertain, you're actually being invited to surrender, to let go of the things you can't control. That is a practice in itself that takes a constant reminder to let go, to let go, to let go. Because with that letting go, you get to shift your focus to what you do have control over and put your energy there instead of putting all your energy and trying to make reality something it's not, change things you don't have control over. When you're really getting clear, if you have discernment about what's in your control and what's not, you're preserving your energy. When you're preserving your energy, you have a lot more energy to regulate, to be present with what's happening in the moment. And then you want to think about ways to regulate the nervous system. We want to do this in two ways. You want to have something you do daily that's going to help you to regulate, be a little more grounded, calming. Again, there's a bunch of practices on my channel if you want to explore some somatic practices or yogic practices you could use for that. You could also do something else if you want to journal, if you want to take a walk and look at the trees, if you want to be in nature, anything that helps to feel more connected to your body, to the earth, to nature. So that's one, to have these daily practices, a routine that you can do every day that's just helping to take your baseline of your nervous system, to build the window of tolerance so you have a little more space to kind of go up and down with what's happening without it taking you totally out of your experience, either shutting down or freezing. And then the other thing is you need some practices or tools for in the moment when you're noticing throughout the day that things are getting out of balance, knowing what you can do to bring yourself back. Again, I have a bunch of videos, check them out if you want some ideas for what that is. And then another important piece is you cannot do this on your own. Part of regulating your nervous system is being connected to other safe, mostly safe, no one's fully safe, humans or animals or nature, connecting outside yourself. These types of things, yes, we're in our body, it's good to have these practices, but you also need other people, other beings that help to regulate, help you to feel more grounded and not so alone in what's happening. So finding community spaces, spending time with your loved ones, and not just as a distraction, but how do you find those spaces where you can be real, you can be honest, you can be vulnerable about what's going on for you. And then really getting clear about what you don't have capacity for. What do you say no to? So part of regulating the nervous system and creating more space to be with the ups and downs of life is telling people no, is setting boundaries for yourself. And not because you just want to take care of yourself and it has to be all about you, but because when you get really clear with that, you're preserving energy, you're better able to regulate, better able to show up for the people that matter most to you, to the things that matter most for you, to the world that needs you right now. And then finally, I think it's really important in these moments, especially when things feel out of your control, like the powers to be will just do whatever they want, is to engage in social movements and political action. I think this is actually a really important piece of regulating ourselves, because what is happening collectively impacts us on an individual level, and what you're doing impacts what's happening collectively. So that is one of those things that's in your control, that you can choose to engage in some type of social or political action. You can give back, you can make a difference where you can, and then you'll feel a little less out of control. There's so many things that can be put under that umbrella, but sometimes what you need is not to do these practices and to go inward. We need that. That is an important piece. Sometimes it's actually you taking action so you can feel like there is some agency over your experience, over the experience of others. I hope this helped you to get a better understanding of why you might be experiencing the things you're experiencing and what you can do about it. Like I said in the video, if you want to explore some of the somatic practices, I have a bunch of different videos of short practices to longer practices. So you can have little simple tools you can integrate into your daily life to find more balance with your nervous system. If this was helpful, please give it a like, subscribe so you don't miss out when I put out more videos. And please share if this was a benefit, if you know someone who may benefit from this. And I hope to see you again soon.